Imagine waking up one morning and realizing the entire world is about to change. Empires that ruled for centuries would collapse. Millions of soldiers would march into a war no one truly understood, and a single event would ignite a conflict so massive that it would later be called the Great War. This is the story of World War I, and this is part 1. How the world walked straight into war, a world ready to explode. In the early 1900s, Europe looked powerful and stable on the surface. Huge empires controlled vast territories. Among the most powerful were the British Empire, the German Empire, the Russian Empire, and the Austro Hungarian Empire. But beneath this appearance of power, tension was rising everywhere. Countries were competing for power. Nationalism was spreading rapidly, and militaries were growing larger every year. Nations began building massive armies and powerful weapons, preparing for a war they hoped would never come. But the truth was simple. Europe had become a giant powder keg, and all it needed was a spark. The alliances that divided Europe. By the early 1900s, Europe had split into two powerful alliances. On one side was the Triple Entente. This group included the United Kingdom, France, Russia. On the other side was the Triple Alliance. This group included Germany, Austria-Hungary, Italy. These alliances were meant to prevent war, but instead, they made the situation far more dangerous, because if one country went to war, everyone else would be pulled into the conflict. The day that changed history. On June 28, 1914, something happened that would shock the world. In the city of Sarajevo, the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne was visiting. His name was Archduke Franz Ferdinand. As his motorcade moved through the city streets, a young nationalist stepped forward. His name was Gavrilo Princip, and within seconds, gunshots rang out. The Archduke and his wife were killed. This moment became known as the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. At first, it seemed like a regional political crisis, but behind the scenes, powerful nations began preparing for war. The domino effect begins. Austria-Hungary blamed the country of Serbia for the assassination. Backed by Germany, Austria-Hungary issued an ultimatum to Serbia. When tensions escalated, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. On July 28, that's when the alliance system activated. Russia began mobilizing to defend Serbia. Germany then declared war on Russia. Soon after, Germany declared war on France. To attack France quickly, Germany invaded Belgium. That single decision pulled another major power into the war, the United Kingdom. Within just a few days, Europe had fallen into a full-scale war. A war no one expected. When the war began in 1914, most leaders believed it would end quickly. Many soldiers thought they would be home by Christmas. But they were wrong. What followed would become one of the deadliest conflicts the world had ever seen. Millions of soldiers would fight in trenches. New weapons would change warfare forever, and entire empires would collapse. But one major nation had not yet entered the war: the United States. At first, America stayed neutral, but events over the next few years would eventually pull the United States into the conflict. And when that happened, the entire balance of the war would change.